All right, 3 o'clock chat here. Big news out of Denver. Former Duck Bo Nix has been named the starting quarterback for the Broncos by head coach Sean Payton. Nix will become the second Broncos rookie to start week one at quarterback after John Elway in 1983. Denver will open up their season in Seattle against the Seahawks. Elsewhere, Russell Wilson said he expects to play in the preseason finale against the Lions on Saturday, and Deshaun Watson limited at Browns practice due to a sore arm. On the diamond, Mariners finish up their series against the Dodgers tonight in Los Angeles. Logan Gilbert will be on the bump. That first pitch at 7:10. With the win, the Mariners would pull to within 4 games in the West after the Red Sox topped the Astros 4-1. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad's coming at you next. The college football messiah, Phil Steele, is going to join the show at 5:20.
It's time for the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad, presented by Lazy Boy. What is your strategy for comfort?
If you woke up every morning and I told you you sucked at what you did, that you don't belong doing what you do, that you shouldn't be here, that this guy should be here, that you haven't earned this right, and you hear it more and more, you start to actually believe that.
That hit me in a way that wasn't, I wouldn't say was positive for me, but at the same time, I've got to use that and say, hey, how can I grow from that? How can I be better?
McCann drives this left field and deep, way back there, and that baby is long gone. Into the second deck, James McCann, he comes back to Queens, and he delivers a 2-run shot. What a blow.
You say, well, why don't you keep talking? Why don't you do something?
The best players are self-motivated, though. You don't need that motivation from somebody else, because I think, we have inspiration for sure from some of those comments or other people or fighting back against Father Time, but you have to be self-motivated to last in this league, and I have enough motivation without any other comments that are said out there.
Strap in. The Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad starts now.
All right, Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad as we got great news today out of Denver. Sean Payton finally got around to naming his starting quarterback. Bo Nix will open up as the starter week one in Seattle, and he'll be the starter throughout the season.
Before you go any further, I got an announcement to make. A couple hours ago, you put a tweet up, X. You posted on X and said, with this news, I will not be wearing pants the rest of the day. See you in Seattle week one. Bo-licious. Well, I have to answer all my buddies who are texting me, yes, Chad is wearing pants, and there might be a problem in the studio if he decides to take them off.
Yes, I want to get naked right now. I'm just being honest with you. The pants are a little bit tight, these jeans, and I wish I could take them off. But then I remembered YouTube, and I thought that might be a little bit too much for people, a little too revealing this early in the season. We haven't even gotten to week one yet, but I'm pretty excited. I guess from where I stand, Godfather, when the Broncos drafted Bo Nix or going into the draft, I did not want them to take Bo Nix that high in the first round. I thought it was crazy because most of the experts I had heard from and people I talked to in Denver, he was tabbed as more of a second-round quarterback. And so I thought okay, you're going to pass on other quality players to reach on a quarterback in the first round. You take him in the second round, that's fine, but I thought it was risky business. And then after the draft, I heard from Sean Payton, he discussed the process that they went through where they looked at the film, they took away all of the plays at the line of scrimmage, the screen passes, the short dump offs, and they looked at all of his throws downfield, and they liked what they saw. And then they talked to Bo, and he was a football junkie who was focused on football, brought a certain level of maturity at age 24 and having 61 starts in college. And then minicamp opened up, and you're getting good reports. And then training camp started. And while it was Jared Stidham who got off to the early lead, as we expected with his experience, it did not take long for Nix to close that gap and then separate himself from the other two guys in Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham. And for me, when I saw the first preseason game against Indianapolis, that's when I was like, he's your starting quarterback.
Yeah. This was a predictable result to the quote-unquote competition for the starting job.
Yes, the way it was described to me by someone close to the situation, it's always been Bo Nix's job. It was just a matter of when he was going to get it. Would it be week one, or would they wait 4 weeks or 6 weeks and then put him in? It was always Bo Nix's job, and if any other quarterback, Wilson or Stidham, got a chance to start to begin the year, they would just be a placeholder until they put him in. For me, what was the most important thing is that you reach on a guy, or at least I thought they were reaching, but you draft a guy at number in the first round at quarterback. The biggest thing for me was Zach Wilson and Jared Stidham on the roster, he better win that job because those guys are not bona fide starters in the NFL. And Bo Nix is this guy that Sean Payton handpicked. He needs to go out there and win the job. And the best news I have is that he went out and he grabbed hold of the job and didn't do anything to give any ground. He just took it and ran with it and proved through the course of camp and the 2 preseason games they played so far that he's by far the best option at quarterback on the team. He gives them the best chance to win. And while he has no NFL experience, he did get 61 starts in college, and he's older at 24, so mature. Now, I'm not out of control. I know that the preseason is the preseason for a reason, and the regular season is a totally different brand of football. He opens up at a tough spot in Seattle against that crowd noise and that defense with a head coach that's defensive-minded. So he's probably not going to have a smooth opening game, but I'm confident where he's at right now, and I'm excited to see what he's going to become working with Sean Payton at quarterback.
Well, I, too, liked what he did in his 2 exhibition game performances. And what I would also add to that, I was impressed, too, that he didn't try to force things. He didn't try to do too much because I think he knew the pressure was on him to earn that starting job. He wanted that starting job. So it would have been easy for him to try to force something downfield, do something off schedule that would have made him look good or maybe make him look bad. He did what he was supposed to do. He just carried out the orders. He was a bit robotic because that's the role he's going to play his first year, I think. It's going to be, here's the play, execute the play the way it's supposed to. Don't get too carried away with anything else. And he did a great job of that. And as Sean Payton scripted it beautifully for him, I think there was certainly a sense with Sean Payton. He wanted to make Bo look as good as he could. Mm-hmm. And there's reasons for that, obviously. So it worked out perfectly for both Bo and Sean Payton.
No question about it. And then I went back in my mind after I heard the news today. Just look at his transition in college where he opened up at Auburn. Things went south at Auburn, and he ended up jumping in the transfer portal and then going to Oregon. We've talked about this at length. 5 seasons in college, 5 different offensive coordinators, and a lot of change. And he moved from one side of the country to the other. But look at the development and the improvement in his game from year 1 up until last year at Oregon. I mean, it's amazing the transformation that he had. And I go back to conversations that you and I had before his first year at Oregon, where people who cover the SEC and people who cover different parts of the country, they didn't understand the signing, and they thought it was a bit of a joke because they didn't like what they saw from Nix at Auburn, and look at what happened. He was dominant in year 1 at Oregon, and then in year number 2, he even raised it up a notch and put together one of the finest seasons you'll see in college football. So I have a lot of high hopes for him, and he wouldn't be the first guy to be a later bloomer at that position. And his maturity, though, is something that I value a great deal because he's not going to become arrogant. he won't become foolish, and he will be a good listener in terms of what Sean Payton wants him to do. And with his acumen in understanding the game, I think that's going to put him in a position to have success in his first year.
Well, we know he's been proving doubters wrong now for
Yeah.
quite a while, because I think you underestimated when you talked about those. I mean, we had people coming on here on this show who had watched him at Auburn, who basically said, no, he's not going to help.
Yeah.
He's not going to get it done. He's not good enough. And I mean, look, coming into the draft, people said, second-round quarterback. Well, maybe not.
Yeah. Props to Dan Lanning for seeing what he truly was,
Yeah.
and realizing what he could become
And
in that
nurturing
situation
his-
at Oregon.
He nurtured his development by hiring 2 very good offensive coordinators. Lost the first one to a head coaching job. Second one comes in. The train didn't stop. It just kept right on rolling.
That's so true. The other good thing about this quote-unquote competition, look, the reality is that Bo Nix was the best quarterback, and he won the competition in a competition that was set up for him to succeed. But the importance is that his teammates know who the best quarterback is, and they believe in him, and they've seen the development. And we've heard from a number of different teammates, veterans, who have been very impressed with his development, with his understanding of the offense, with the way he handles himself. And we're going to hear from him here in about 10 minutes, but I think they respect the way he operates. He's not some type of dum-dum that gets ahead of himself and says foolish things. And he knows how to speak like quarterbacks are supposed to speak, that success is about we, and when mistakes are made on offense, it's about me, the quarterback. You have to do that. Even when your receiver runs the wrong route and you throw a pick, you can let him know behind closed doors, but when you're talking to people, you take responsibility for those mistakes and own it, and then you can deal with the receiver later. But that's what good quarterbacks do. They know how to lead and communicate publicly to make sure that the veteran teammates continue to be pleased with the way he's operating. He's very socially aware. Obviously, he comes from a football family. I think that helps him with these type of matters, which are critical.
Yeah, I was just going to say, self-awareness is a big asset for him.
Yeah.
He knows who he is, what he has to do to get where he wants to go, and he carries his plan all the way through. He has been so well schooled. I don't know if it's his father, his coaches, his
combination.
mother, whoever it is, but somebody has taught him how to act and how a quarterback acts. He just, it's like by the book.
By the book.
I mean, boom, boom, boom. He's got all the things. Praise the teammates. Praise the other quarterbacks. Praise the coaching staff. It wasn't on you. It was the team. You know, all that stuff that they're supposed to say, man, he says it as if he's reading it off a script.
The funny thing is, we're going to hear from Sean Payton coming up next. It irritates me because he's still reserved in his discussion of the quarterbacks. He acts like all 3 guys are the same, and they're not. Not even close. But he didn't just win the job. He really performed well.
Yeah.
Exceeded all expectations up to this point. Now, for me, just like I'm not going to get carried away with the preseason performance, he could go out week 1 in Seattle and put up 4 picks and look awful, and it has no determination on what he's going to be long-term as a quarterback.
Yeah.
You have to take all this crap in stride.
No
John
question.
Elway did not look great early on.
Either did Peyton Manning, right?
No. Few quarterbacks do look phenomenal, unless you're freaking Patrick Mahomes, but everyone else, has a bit of a learning curve there because it's a hard position to play. And you're right, quarterbacks have to act differently. They're not a defensive lineman.
No.
They're not a wide receiver.
Yeah.
And when they do act goofy, their teammates don't like it. It's like, what are you talking about, man? Keep your mouth shut. That's what those guys do. But behind closed doors, then they can have discussion, healthy discussion. But quarterbacks they're an extension. They represent a billion-dollar corporation.
Say the right things and buy your offensive line Rolexes. That's your job.
That's right. No discount watches. Man.
No. You get the real thing for those guys.
100%. All right, we'll keep things rolling. We're going to come back. We'll hear from Broncos head coach Sean Payton. And by the way, I'm very happy today, so you should just know that I'm very excited about this.
For real, folks. For real.
I am highly aroused. We're going to hear from Sean Payton. We'll hear from the greatest Bronco of all time, John Elway. We're going to hear from Peyton Manning and Bo Nix himself on the decision that he has been named starting quarterback. Also, later in the show, a tremendous response from Brian Flores in regard to the criticism handed down by Tua. Pretty impressive.
Very.
Like, if you need help on how to respond to criticism, Brian Flores laid out the blueprint. If you follow his steps, you will be successful at life. You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. All right, we're excited about this, but coming up at 5:20 today, the college football messiah himself, Phil Steele, will join the show, and we'll get a chance to preview the upcoming college football season, which is going to be epic. And
I've been reading, Chad, I've been reading his magazine. I would guess for 25 years.
We're going to ask him. I can't remember how long. I want to say he's close to 3 decades in.
Mm-hmm.
I want to know how many televisions he's got working on a Saturday, but he really knows his stuff, and he talks to all the coaches, and he's been doing it for so long that he's got perspective on each program because he knows where they've been, where they've gone, and where they're going to, and I think that's terrific. So every year we talk to him, and I get excited every time because there's no one like Phil Steele.
Yeah, and that magazine was incredible, Chad. So thick, yet all the printing on every page was small because he was trying to fit in virtually every college you'd ever want to read about with football.
One of my favorite things to do when I was younger, before the internet came on, late 80s, early 90s, was go right around July is when they'd hit the magazine rack.
Yeah.
I would go and pick out my favorite football preview magazines. My Nana would run me down to the store, and I'd load up on them, and I would just read them. I loved it. I couldn't get enough of it, and he's one of the few remaining actual magazines, and I think they're available right now at Barnes & Noble as well if you want to pick one up there.
Yeah.
If you don't want to go through the process of waiting, hit a Barnes & Noble, pick up a copy, and get yourself ready. But he's going to join us coming up at 5:20. We do have some goodies to give away, and I think we should probably do that right now. Godfather, we have a Hops Ticket Wednesday because we were down at Corvallis yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
Didn't get a chance to give away the tickets. So today we got a 4-pack of tickets. Hops are going to battle it out with Spokane August 23rd. That's a couple of days from now. Hillsborough Ballpark. So if you want a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops, fire away with your phone calls right now. 503-248-0620. Corvallis! 503-248-0620 is your telephone number. Call now. You'll get a 4-pack of tickets for the Hops. You can go and hang out in the Rip City Radio Row and check out some baseball. The season's winding down, and so is our summertime, which is sad. But call now, 503-248-0620. That telephone number, 503-248-0620. Shacker will take your call.
Banks!
I love Banks. He'll get your information and dial you in for the Hops Ticket Tuesday, 4-pack of tickets for the Hops and Spokane coming up on the 23rd. You'll sit in the Rip City Radio Row. And we're going to be out there next week, at the end of next week on Friday for our final on-site broadcast from Hillsborough Ballpark, which is going to be nice. We'll be able to see the ground broken. Last time we were out there, they hadn't broken ground yet, but they have now.
Yeah, they have. Mm-hmm. A lot of heavy equipment out there.
The Hops got approval from the state legislator, and yet the Diamond Project still has nothing. I hate that.
Yeah.
What's up with that, Godfather?
I can't answer that.
Have you given up hope?
I know. I've always had hope.
Okay.
And I'll probably take it to the grave.
All right, let's hear from Sean Payton in case you missed it. Bo Nix has been named the Broncos starting quarterback. Very good news for me and for all of you Duck fans. So let's take a listen to Sean Payton, who finally got around. Godfather. Like, what's up with Sean Payton just slow rolling this whole game?
I think he enjoyed keeping all that in his pocket.
Because he can.
Yes.
Yeah. Here he is today announcing who his starting quarterback is going to be.
I want to talk real quick about the quarterback position. You guys have been real patient. I understand, and respect that process for you. And for us, we've had a process. So, look, Bo Nix is going to be our starting quarterback. I felt like, and I said this to you guys 2 weeks ago, that room has been outstanding. Stidham, certainly with his experience, and then, being able to work with Zach Wilson, all three of those guys. The larger body of work, there's certain things right now with Stiddy's experience that you see. I would say, a lot of the off-schedule movement throws, and I think he's been consistent. And it's not really a reflection on Jared or even Zach. It's some of the things that he's been able to do pretty quickly. His arm strength down the field, all the things when we evaluated him, you kind of trust your instincts.
There you go. Broncos head coach Sean Payton talking about his decision. The only part that's weird to me is, and I guess he has to do this as his head coach, but he's very reserved in talking about Bo Nix. And he's a lot more excited about that. But he almost made it sound like, hey, it's real close. I'm really pleased with Zach Wilson and Jarrett Stidham. But I like that he mentioned some of the, unscripted plays where we saw some of the athleticism. I think that's where Bo Nix, for people who haven't watched a lot of Oregon football, and there's a lot of that because a lot of people who cover the league are on the other side of the country, being exposed to his athleticism. He's not a slow, plodding iron deer in the pocket. He's a guy that can move. He's a guy that's got great speed in the open field. He can pick up first downs with his legs when he needs to, but clearly a guy that can win the game from the pocket. And that's what Sean Payton loves the most.
I just love it when he says, this is not a reflection on Stid or on Zach Wilson.
Yeah. Thanks for clearing that up, Coach.
Yeah, it's not a reflection of them at all. It's just that this guy's better than them. And you got to understand that. That's why he's the starter. That is a reflection on those guys. He's doing things they haven't done. Okay, let's get that out of the way right now. Not be afraid to say it. And they don't measure up. Their ceiling, in both cases, I think they've reached their ceiling. They are about what they'll ever be as an NFL quarterback. This is what they are. Bo Nix has a ceiling, and we don't know yet what that is. But the idea is to find out.
Yeah, and I can't wait to find out. Let's take a listen to the sheriff, Peyton Manning, who was asked today, who was at a Pro-Am, the BMW Championships. I think John Elway was out there as well. But Peyton Manning asked about Bo Nix being named the starter while he was on the golf course.
Not a big surprise, but while you're on the course, Sean officially named Bo Nix the starter. So what's your reaction?
Yeah, I got to see Bo last night, actually. He and Bowles were here. They had kind of a concert here last night. So saw Luke, got to see him at practice last Friday. Hey, he's had a great camp. He's had a great off-season. He's used the time. You knew his experience, his maturity would be an advantage for him, and he's picked up the system quickly. You can tell. I saw Sean on Monday, and he shared some things too, just that Bo has really kind of answered his challenge and answered the bell. So happy for him. What a great opportunity. I know what that's like, starting as a rookie in your first NFL game, but he'll be ready and pulling hard for him.
That's Peyton Manning. I still can't believe that 20 years of my Bronco life has included John Elway or Peyton Manning. It's incredible. But Peyton Manning, like Elway, understands the pressure and the difficulty of being a rookie quarterback in the NFL. But I don't think Peyton Manning would heap praise on a guy like that unless he truly believed it. And those are the things you want to hear from Peyton. Good camp, smart, obviously a good fit with Sean Payton, but it's nice to hear some praise from the sheriff.
Yeah, and if anybody knows about the hazardous rookie season for an NFL quarterback, it's Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Yeah, his team, Indianapolis Colts, I think they went
3-13.
Yeah. And he set a record for most interceptions.
And he would be very thankful
season.
if Bo Nix decided to break that rookie record. He's been waiting for someone to do that.
Yeah.
28 picks.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot of picks. They didn't play as many games back then either.
No. But he'll be the first to tell you that experience was vital in him becoming the quarterback that he eventually became, which is a Hall of Famer. That, you go through the struggles, but you get a chance to have action against a real NFL defense, the speed, you're adjusting to the game, learning how to play that position, and then you get that film to continue to look at and study so you can get better and make improvements as you move along.
Chad, I'm convinced too that part of the decision to name him the starter is that his maturity will allow him to handle whatever happens. And I think their big worry is the only bad thing that could happen is if he doesn't have success, which they kind of half expect, but if it ruins him. You don't want it to ruin him and destroy his confidence if he doesn't have a good year.
And there have been quarterbacks that have been ruined in year one.
Absolutely. And I think, Zach Wilson might be an example of that.
Yeah.
And I think you look at this kid and you think, well, he'll understand. I think he can handle that. He'll understand it's all part of the process. And what do they say? You trust the process. And I think he will.
All right, let's listen to another Hall of Famer. This guy here, the greatest Bronco of all time. Obviously, my favorite player of all time. And he's Mr. Colorado. Let's listen to John Elway, who was at the same tournament as Peyton Manning, sharing his thoughts on Bo being named the starter.
I think that, obviously Bo's tremendously talented. He's played a lot of college football, and so he's he's ahead of the curve when it comes to that. And I think that, I think Sean Payton will be great for him, and that the offense that they're going to run, they'll protect him. I think they're pretty good in the offensive line, be able to run the football. So, Bo's a mature guy, and so it'll be fun for them to see them work. And like I said, I think Sean knows how to develop quarterbacks, and I think he'll keep him in the right situations and not put too much on him and allow him to continue to improve week in, week out. I mean, Bo's going to see it. It's a big jump from preseason to regular season. And so, but hopefully, and I'm sure he'll handle that well. He's going to have his ups and downs as a young guy, which I had plenty of those. But I think that he's got all the talent in the world and the mind strength to be able to do it.
There you go, John Elway. This is almost too much for me to handle, Godfather. John Elway, Peyton Manning, and Bo Nix. It's too much. But I love what Elway said. Hey, just so you know, there's a big difference between preseason football against backups and regular season football like Bo Nix is going to see in Seattle week 1.
Yeah.
Loudest crowd in the NFL and a coach that wants to scheme something to frustrate him being a young quarterback and Coach McDonald. That's going to be tough. I can't wait to see how he responds to that type of pressure.
It's going to be really tough because this is McDonald's first game as the head coach.
You don't want to get carved up as a defensive mind by a rookie QB.
No, and I don't know if you can get an accurate scouting report on exactly what this guy's going to do. It'll be a lot like what he did in Baltimore, I'm sure, but not probably identical. So they're guessing a little bit on what Bo might be facing in this game. And I think people should not have high expectations about what's going to happen in this game because they're going to have to go with silent count because of the crowd noise. It's a terrible place for a rookie to make his debut.
All right, you mentioned the maturity of Bo Nix. Well, he responded to the news almost like I expected him to.
Yeah.
He's happy, but he didn't really show it. He didn't act crazy.
Kept his pants on.
And he did. That's okay. I can handle the I'll take care of all the nudity that's needed for this situation.
Okay, gotcha.
Here's Bo Nix reacting to the press about the news of being named starting quarterback for the Broncos.
Thank you. I appreciate it. It was really cool. It's, not every day to get that news, but obviously, as a room, we've been working hard and, putting a lot of good things on film, putting a lot of good things, on the practice field. And so to get that news is definitely a great thing. And so I'm super excited and, ready to get back to work again and go back to it and start again.
Perfect response. Not too excited. He's happy and he's looking forward to the opportunity, but he's like, yeah, I got to go to work now. It's time to get back to work. And that's the way he is. He's a football junkie, so he's going to go right back to work and continue to focus on the playbook. And then once they install the game plan, he'll focus on that. And for him, he's just taking it day by day, just trying to improve in practice, the drills, and then obviously the games that are coming up. But I like the way he handles himself. There's just a maturity, a quiet confidence. I like the way he handles his business.
Yeah, and he's overloaded with stuff right now.
Oh.
I can't imagine the mental load that he's got right now just with the playbook and the game plan, and then all those teammates out there, some of whom have to be handled with care, some of them don't, keeping everybody happy. You know how receivers are, the whole thing, and then worried about what the defense is going to present him, trying to figure out what kind of audibles he can call, plays he can change at the line of scrimmage. This thing is incredibly difficult.
All right, here's what they've got early part of the schedule for the Denver Broncos. They open up in Seattle. That's week 1, September 8th. That's a tough game. And then they come back home for the home opener week 2 against the Pittsburgh Steelers. They might struggle on offense, but Pittsburgh's got a good defense. That'll be a challenge. Then they go to Tampa and the New York Jets back-to-back weeks. 2 tough games.
Wow.
And then they come back home to take on the Raiders and the Chargers before a trip to New Orleans to meet the Saints. So right out of the gate, you've got difficult games, tough competition, good defensive teams, and some tough road games mixed in there. So we're going to find out a lot about Bo over the first, 4 to 6 weeks of the season to see where he's at and how he's going to handle some of that pressure. But I think you're right. I think he's ready for the challenge. The important part is for Denver, and we've seen this in the preseason, They're going to run the football. They have a good offensive line, a very good run-blocking offensive line, and they're pretty good in pass pro. But I just don't think Sean Payton's going to put him in a position to get killed or hang him out to dry. I think they're going to keep the game plan early on in his career conservative enough to where he can get comfortable out there, but lean on your defense, which is improved, and lean on your running game, which has got a chance to be really good, and then let Bo continue to stretch his wings as the season moves along. You don't have to overload him early. It's not about wins and losses anyways. It's about him developing.
Yeah.
That's the most important thing. And if you can win some games along the way, that's great. But, I mean, that's a pretty good formula. The rookie quarterbacks that we've seen that have had great success, like last year, C.J. Stroud, the defense was good. They did a pretty good job of running the football. And then as the season went along, they opened up the offense even more for Stroud because he proved capable of handling it. Big Ben Roethlisberger had a great rookie season with the Steelers. They played defense. They ran the football. And as the season went along, he got more comfortable. They allowed him to do more things. Sean Payton is the right coach for him. I mean, he's got access to Manning. He's got access to Elway. He's got Sean Payton as head coach. Like, if you're a rookie quarterback, what else could you want if you're Bo Nix?
Yeah.
To have that coach, Sean Payton, quarterback guru, what else do you want, Godfather?
Yeah. No excuses, really. He's got all the tools he needs.
Yeah. It's not like Joey Harrington in Detroit or David Carr in Houston in a first year for an expansion franchise where he's getting murdered because the offensive line's so bad.
And a dumb coach.
Yes. They've got some tools to work with here to where he can be in a position to have success. And Sean Payton is tied to Bo Nix. So Sean Payton wants and needs this rookie to work out. So whatever Sean Payton's got, he's going to do everything he can to share that with Bo so he can get him up to speed so he can become a productive NFL quarterback. So if you're Bo Nix, you're right, no excuses. Just go out there and do your work, and the rest will take care of itself. But I'm pretty excited. In fact, who is it? Duke? I dropped my phone. Duke, the UPS guy, made a great point in terms of quarterbacks. He's a Giant fan, Godfather. And you can imagine being a New York Giant fan. He sent me a message and said, I'm so jealous that you guys got Bo, and my Giants are stuck with Daniel freaking Jones. I bet Daniel Jones is absolute trash. Daniel Dimes more like Danny Pennies. But that's what it's all about. It's hope, right?
Yeah.
When you find a quarterback that you think could be the guy or is the guy, all of a sudden it changes the entire outlook of your franchise. That one position.
Most important position in the game.
Or you could be the Raiders and have Gardner Minshew and Aiden O'Connell. No answer.
Yeah, how can you have hope with that?
No hope. Because those guys suck. And it makes me happy. Or you could be the Steelers and have Russ and freaking Justin Fields.
Yeah.
That's not good either, Godfather.
No. And, boy, by the way, there's some crazy things being said about Justin Fields and his ability. There are people out there who think he's just a superstar in waiting, and it's like, are you watching the kid play? Are you watching him from the pocket?
Yeah. Have you watched him deliver the football?
When he does quarterback things, he doesn't do them very well. When he does some scrambling around stuff, it looks okay. But you're not going to win doing that stuff.
No. The other good thing about Bo was the improvement from the game against Indy to the game against the Packers, the footwork. Mm-hmm. The improvements he made in just 1 week in terms of footwork and getting rid of the football. Those are good signs. All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the Rip City Drive. Phil Steele, the messiah of college football, is going to join us coming up at 5:20, and we'll get a full breakdown from him. When we come back, Pete Carroll, he's got a new endeavor, Godfather.
Yeah, I heard about that.
What do you think about that? Well, we'll get to that next. You got the Rip City Drive. Well, I appreciate you, Shacker. It is a great time to play Love Making Music. Bo Nix named the starter in Denver. Phil Steele going to join us coming up at 5:20. Pete Carroll joined our good friend Softy and Dick Fain up at 93.3 KGR FM. And these coaches kill me all the time because all they want to do is coach and they want to be around the game. And then they step out, and he was removed as head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, and now he's not coaching. And that's got to be killing him, Godfather.
Yeah, I think he's kind of wandering around, wondering what he's going to do next.
No, it's not good. Just go do what you love, man. Find somewhere to coach football, even if you're not the head guy. I don't know why these guys even try to do something different. You know what's in your blood, and he's not going to be happy unless he's roaming the sideline somewhere, playing in that type of competition. I don't know why these guys fight it. Just do what you love.
Yeah. I would think a guy who's done what he's done, he's won a Super Bowl and everything, go to some high school that's downtrodden, has never won, hasn't done anything, maybe in a not-so-great area in the city of Seattle, and reinvigorate their football program. That would be the coolest thing to do, I think, as a retired coach.
Yeah.
You wouldn't even need to take money for it. Just do it.
I think Pete Carroll, he's annoying. He's annoyed me for years with the floppy hair.
I agree.
And the gum chewing and all the nonsense. But the reality is that he's a great coach, and he's a really good dude, and I think he cares about people. So you're right. I think that would be a way for him to connect. But he's doing something different, and even though he's a little short on details, here's what he had to say to us, Softy.
Well, I'm kind of keeping it undercover here for a bit, but I will wind up working down at USC. I'm gonna wind up teaching down there.
Wow!
And I'm looking forward to that. It's going to be a really exciting endeavor when it all is finalized and all that. Not quite yet, but I'm down in LA today doing some stuff. So that's going to be in line, and there is some other stuff that I'm advising and counseling with, and on some other clubs, not football, some other things, and that I'm excited about. Again, I'm not talking about those if you don't mind. But if people are worried about me, I'm fine. I'm doing just fine, and I'm having fun. And Glenn and I have been having a blast with our family and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of things going on that I'm excited about. There'll be a little bit before it shows up. I was really looking forward to this Kuwait visit and seeing the troops and all that. And there'll be some stuff that comes out of that as well. So I'm going to be kind of vague, like I always am, when you guys talk to me. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Shocking. Pete Carroll, always going to have fun doing what he's going to do. But so he's going to teach down at USC?
Yeah, all I can say to that, Chad, is the old rule that they had in classrooms when I was in school, no chewing gum in the classroom. They won't be enforcing that when he's teaching down at USC.
No.
Because that guy's got a stick of gum in his mouth at all times.
Is he going to be teaching algebra? History?
I'm guessing some sort of leadership classes would be where he would go. Don't you think? I mean, what? I don't know. I don't know enough about him. Maybe he's a history buff.
Sports management?
That's a possibility.
What was his degree in? I mean, what do you think he'd be best at? Leadership. I mean, those coaches, they get paid big money to go and talk about leadership at different conferences and stuff.
Yeah. I don't, I'll be honest, Chad. I don't even know where he went to college. Where did he go to college?
It's a great question, isn't it? I'm looking it up right now. But you've known a lot of coaches. A lot of them speak to leadership conferences and
Absolutely.
so forth.
Yeah. They can make a good living at that, actually.
Marin and then Pacific.
He went to Pacific?
Yeah.
That's the Pacific in Stockton, California.
You ever been to Pacific? I think I've driven by it once.
Yeah, I think I have been there for a basketball game at one time.
What do you think he'd be best at?
I think his organizational skills are good. His people skills are probably really good. Leadership, probably. He could teach a football coaching class. They usually have classes like that in the phys ed department of colleges.
He's got a degree in a Bachelor of Science in Business Administration.
Oh, maybe he can talk business. It wouldn't seem to make a lot of sense to me to have him down there talking business administration.
Well, he might be good at it. Most of these coaches are terrific speakers. And as a coach, he's a natural teacher. I just don't understand what he's going to get out of that himself unless he's truly looking to make a difference in the lives of young people. And obviously, he loves USC. This just seems like a detour from where he wants to be, which is on the sideline somewhere.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Can you see him being a head coach in the NFL again? He didn't seem to be campaigning for that.
I think he wants to be a head coach again. I don't think he wanted to not be the head coach of the Seattle Seahawks. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
He wasn't ready to step down. He was let go. He was fired.
No, he admitted I think his phrase was he campaigned hard to keep the job, but they weren't in it.
And I'm okay with that decision because he had been there forever.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you need a new voice.
Time for change, no doubt.
And I would guess, even though Pete's successful, you know how it is, even a successful coach, the rah-rah, same gum-chewing, hair-flopping thing, it might get tired for some of the vets there.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think that would probably run its course with his players.
All right, we'll keep things rolling here on the show. Dwight and Chad with you. Hope you're enjoying your Wednesday afternoon. I certainly am. Having a great day. When we come back, you get a textbook response to criticism. And this is something going to help the youngsters out there, people my age, the grandmas and the grandpas out there. If you need help on how to deal with criticism, Brian Flores has laid the blueprint for you. We'll play it for you next. All right, 4 o'clock. Big news from Denver. Former Duck Bo Nix named the starting quarterback for the Broncos by head coach Sean Payton. Nix will become only the second Broncos rookie to start week 1 at quarterback. John Elway is the other, 1983. Denver will open up the season in Seattle against the Seahawks. Elsewhere, Russell Wilson said he expects to play in the preseason finale for the Steelers against the Lions Saturday. And Deshaun Watson limited at practice due to a sore arm. Maybe he could get a massage. On the diamond, Mariners finish up their series against the Dodgers in L.A. tonight. Logan Gilbert's on the bump. That first pitch at 7:10. A win, and the Mariners would pull it within 4 games in the West after the Red Sox topped the Astros today 4-1. More of the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad's coming at you right now. Phil Steele, the college football messiah, is going to join the show at 5:20. But the Browns, what a ridiculous franchise they are. And the Haslam family, all of them are dumb. They are stupid, and they shouldn't be allowed to run an NFL team. Look at what they did. They gave $230 million guaranteed to a guy that was accused and had to settle out of court with like 30 different women for sexual assault with his massage fetish. They gave him $230 million, and they haven't gotten any return on their investment yet because he's been out of the game. He was hurt last year, and he hasn't done jack. This is what dumb franchises do. They make bad decisions, and they go all in, and then they wind up looking around like, what's going on here? The Haslam family is stupid.
They paid him so much money that quarterbacks now signing new deals are still not getting that much. Even though quarterback salaries go up all the time, everybody's in agreement. Even the players are in agreement. They pay that guy way too much money.
100%. All the other NFL teams are like, we're not.
Yeah, we just ignore that, right?
Yeah.
It was the Haslam family.
Yeah, it's the Haslam family. It's the Browns. It's an anomaly, and it's ridiculous.
And now he's got a sore arm. That's a real good thing for a quarterback to have, isn't it?
Gosh, can you imagine how mad the other owners were when they gave out that $230 million fully guaranteed deal? Like, what are you doing, morons? I'm all about the players getting as much money as possible, but if you look at it through the owner's side, they usually are in agreement on how they're going to handle certain things, especially quarterback negotiations.
Cost control, they call that.
That's right. And you're, especially with the quarterback, because they make the most money.
Yeah.
The Browns are dumb. They're dumb, and right now it looks like that signing of Deshaun Watson is going to end up being a complete disaster.
Of all the quarterbacks to go after and lay that much money in their pocket, why him?
Yeah, and then the mom came out and was like, oh, he's been going to counseling, he's rehabilitated. It's like, dude, he was accused of assaulting multiple women.
Like somewhere between 25 and 30.
Yeah. I'd rather have Bo Nix, squeaky clean, representing the franchise. It's creepiness. It's just weird. But that's the Browns. They suck, and I don't like Cleveland. That's a trashy town anyways. They set their lakes on fire, and they're crap, and they deserve what they get. The Browns are a disaster. Cleveland's a disaster. And what was your thought on Cleveland the first time you went there?
Not as bad as I expected, but I expected real bad,
Yeah.
you know?
But not exactly a metropolis.
No, but their sports facilities, other than the football stadium, are all pretty good. You know, the ballpark is great. What is it?
Quicken Loans Arena.
Yeah, that's pretty nice. It's okay.
Yeah, and with that said, you wouldn't want to live there ever.
No, I wouldn't. No, but the climate is horrendous too.
Yeah, muggy during the summertime and freezing balls during the winter.
Freezing cold in the winter.
It's a bad situation. All right, I want to play this. Brian Flores, who is he was head coach. Now he's with the Vikings. He's a Bill Belichick disciple. And he was recently criticized by Tua, who went on Dan Le Batard's show and basically said he's not a good guy. And talked about the verbal berating that he took as a young quarterback.
He basically bullied him.
Yeah. That's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about this before. Sports teams, all the leagues are copycat leagues. So what happens is if you see one team who's having great success, you start to look at what they're doing. You're like, well, why don't we just copy that? So you've got Bill Belichick, who's the greatest coach of all time. 6 championships. Why not just pilfer his coaching staff? Well, the problem is when you have an all-time great and then you have his group of assistants, no matter who these guys are, it's very hard for someone to go out and duplicate the Belichick way because they're not Bill Belichick.
Yeah, that's right.
And if you want to be a hard-nosed a-hole, but you don't have the rings to back it up, you're not going to be able to get away with that. Belichick can do whatever he wants because he's Bill Belichick. He's got the rings. And when you have that, it comes with a certain level of respect. But for these other guys, the assistants who have turned out to be a disaster, we see it in football. We've seen it in basketball with Phil Jackson. And Kurt Rambis was supposedly his right-hand man. Well, when he got his first chance to go out and be Phil Jackson, the problem is he's not Phil Jackson, and it didn't work. It's just hard to play that role.
Yeah.
For an all-time great. But Flores responded in a way that Dwight and I did not see coming. And if you're in a situation where you're facing criticism, this is how you respond. This is a terrific example, and it gives me hope for Brian Flores moving forward because he handled this perfectly when asked about that situation with Tua.
Specific to the comments that were made by Tua, I just want to say, look, I'm happy, genuinely happy, genuinely happy for the success that Tua's had, and I really wish him nothing but the best. And I think player relationships are very important to me. I think that's kind of the foundation of coaching. I got into coaching because I was impacted as a young guy by my high school coaches, my college coaches, by going all the way to Pop Warner. I got into coaching because I want to make that same kind of impact, positive impact, pour into young people, help them become, as KO says all the time, the best versions of themselves. And that's really my goal always in coaching. So I wish nothing but the best to Tua. Really, more than anything, I'm just focused on the Vikings, the 2024 Vikings, the players we have. We saw a couple of guys up here, just a couple minutes ago, Metellus and HP. I think, their leadership, their friendship is important to me, and I'm just, I'm excited about this group.
There you go. It's a pretty good response to the entire situation. He didn't attack Tua. He didn't react to it. You could tell that he took it to heart.
Yeah, he owned it, which is really rare nowadays. I did not expect that from him.
When was the last time LeBron owned something?
Never. Never. He just does not.
No, he points the finger and blames somebody else.
Yeah, and puts that imaginary crown on his head.
I'm just telling you, when you don't deflect and you own something, you do realize how quickly people are to forgive you and be like, man, that's good for you. They'll forgive you for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the players hear that and they're like, dang, that's good. That's the perfect example. And now because he handled it like a man, his players for the Vikings will respect him a great deal. And my guess is he and Tua will be able at some point to be able to mend that relationship as well.
I agree. I thought, after I saw and heard what Tua said about him, I thought he would never, ever get another head coaching job. But now that he's done this, he's still got a chance. He fixed it. He really did. He fixed it. And I think you'd interview him to find out if you think that's real. But it sounded like it was real, and I give him the benefit of the doubt because he took it all on himself, and that's not easy for a man to do.
No, it's not easy to get up in front of a group of people and speak openly like that. And I don't think he was putting on a show. I think he was being honest and speaking from the heart. And it would be hard to fake it that well in that type of situation. And the thing is about Tua, and you're right about him not getting another head coaching job before this heartfelt apology today. Tua's not a guy that has loose lips, right? He's not going to say something carelessly because that's not the way Tua operates. He's a very sharp guy and a very good man with a great heart. He said that because he obviously was deeply disturbed by his experience with Brian Flores.
Yeah, no question. And I get that. I understand that because the way he was treated is the way a lot of coaches used to do it. They would tear you down and try to build you back up again. But they wanted to remake their players in their own image or an image they had that was the correct way to be a player. And it didn't work even in those days much, but you didn't have any choice. You put up with it because in those days, nobody ran and complained about how they were treated by their coach. They just took it or they quit.
The really interesting part of Tua speaking to Le Batard was when he talked about meeting McDaniel for the first time, his new head coach. And McDaniel was like, hey, I believe in you. You're my guy.
Perfect fit for what we want to do, right?
Yeah, Tua didn't believe him.
Yeah.
Because he'd been beaten down so much by Flores that he thought that McDaniel was full of crap. Because he only had one experience, and it was negative, right?
Yeah.
And that's got to be hard for a guy like Tua. You go from Nick Saban, legend, to a guy who's beating you down, talking about how you're not his guy, doesn't believe in you and that kind of stuff. It would mess with your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a quarterback, what a difficult job it is. And you've got to be out there with confidence. You need to know the people around you believe in you. And to have McDaniel come in and say, you're my guy, you're perfect for what I want to do. Well, once he started to understand that McDaniel wasn't putting on a show and he truly believed that, it had to do wonders for him.
Yeah.
And look at the year he had last year. He killed it.
Yeah, he certainly did. He really surprised me last year. He made every throw you wanted him to make. And a great year. Really a great year.
But props to Brian Flores. I wish we got more of this in sports where guys could just own something and say, you know what, I was wrong. I screwed up.
Yeah. I'm trying to learn from it. I've seen some growth in myself, but I made mistakes.
I would pay money to see LeBron do that once. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, you're not going to have to pay any money.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
No.
No, it's not going to happen. Yeah, you don't get that in sports a lot because these guys are, well, for a variety of different reasons. One, when you get to a certain level, there's a certain level of pride and arrogance that comes in. And we've all had to battle that in our lives, right? It can lead to some destructive activity, obviously. And of course, not you, but I'm saying people in other states, right? Well, coaches, players, they're proud. And also, they don't want to lose their job. They don't want to show weakness. So it's hard for these guys to be open and real.
Yeah, and you're dealing with players at the pro level who are so good. Every place they've ever played, they were the star. They were fawned over. They probably had different rules to abide by than the other players on the team. They were adored. They had everything going for them. Now, all of a sudden, you start screaming at a guy like that, telling him he's no good. I don't know how you expect that to work, you know? Not in today's world.
No, it's a different world. You've got to coach differently now. Because if not, these players will tune you out. They're just not used to being bullied like that.
Yeah.
I mean, really, if you think about it, it was never the right way to go about coaching. They just were able to do it.
No, but I would say in the old days, kids weren't babied the way they kind of are now. And
no.
You grew up with parents who had a lot of demands, and you probably got some spankings once in a while.
I got spanked all the time.
Yeah.
And if I started crying, my dad was like, he wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
It's not that my dad didn't love me or wasn't
it's just
sensitive when he needed to be. He's like, look, we're not crying here, okay? Come on now.
Well, it's just a different world, you know, and that wasn't the way in the old days. So if a coach yelled at you, it's like, well, he's not yelling as loud as my dad. I remember somebody asking my own son, how was that guy to play for it? And he said with a smile, not as bad as my dad.
This is a great song. Isn't this a great song?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
This is one of the hits that Hall said came quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I got a story on Foreigner, too. In one of my YouTube modes, great story on one of their greatest songs.
Really?
That caused a rift between the top two guys. I got to share that with you before the end of the show.
Okay.
I love these details behind the scenes.
I know
it just blows me away. All right, when we come back, Caleb Williams doesn't get nervous. And we're not buying that. Aaron Rodgers likes the work that his team is putting in. And a nice little interesting stat from Pro Football Focus on Bo Nix. Hey, Godfather, you would think that ESPN, being as big as they are, would have a better website. There's certain things in life that just irritate me. That would be one. It's like get a better website with less ads and be able to play videos in a more timely fashion.
Yeah, no kidding.
Gosh, it's like, come on, man. What are we doing here, people?
They've always been way behind with their website. They've never caught up. They got in behind everybody else. And for some reason, with all the money they have, all that Disney stuff, and they can't put out a good website. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, YouTube remains and will always remain the best because they know how to get things done the right way. They don't jack with you. You can go right there, get to what you need, and then boom, you're set. But these other sites, man, if they start jacking me with like ads and stuff like that, I've got patience for about 10 seconds and I'm out of there. I don't need your ads, all right?
Yeah.
Come on now. Do you want me on your side or not, people? Okay, a couple of different things we want to get to here. First off, Caleb Williams, I've shared the story before. Last year, I was down at Pac-12 Media Day. He was a cut above every single other athlete that I talked to in terms of his focus. He was dressed in a suit. It was all business to him, and he just looked and reeked of a pro. It's like, oh, you're a pro. Nice to meet you, Caleb Williams. Different type of cat.
Yeah.
And I love that type of focus. He was just all business, and I respected the heck out of it. Not that I didn't respect Cam Rising or any other quarterbacks I met. It's just when I met Caleb Williams, I'm like, okay, he's different. That's a different type of guy. You know how when you walk in a room, and this happens with great coaches or great players, you can kind of separate out. It's like, okay, he's different than that guy, and there's a certain aura about them.
Charisma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, apparently he doesn't get nervous. I'm
That's
not
what
sure
he
I buy
said.
it.
Yeah.
But here he is on the sideline before he took the field at Soldier Field talking to one of his coaches about, just let me know if you get nervous. He's like, no, that's not really a problem. Let's take a listen.
Where your nervous level, nervous energy gets to like scale of 1 to 10?
0. I don't get nervous. Not since my first game of high school versus Gilman. I fumbled 2 snaps. Other than that, and I came back and threw like out and up down the sideline. Other than that, play ball.
That guy's a cold piece right there.
Are you buying that he never gets nervous?
No, I think it's probably a matter of semantics here. I still get nervous before every radio show.
Yeah.
Butterflies, which I consider nerves, and then once the show starts, I'm fine. But there's a certain nervousness that I get, even though I've done this 1,000 times.
Yeah.
I think that's normal. I think that's healthy. I think you need to have a little bit of butterflies or nervous energy to kind of bring in your focus. I would imagine playing quarterback's the same way. How can you not be when you know you're going to go out there, and if you're not on top of your game, you're going to get your ass kicked because you're going up against guys who are really good at their job?
And
how can that not elicit some type of response from your nervous system?
And he's got a target on his back where everybody out on the field on the other team's trying to kill him.
Trying to kill him because they know if they hit him hard and get him out of the game, their chances of winning increase significantly.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just, in athletic competitions that I competed in old men's leagues and stuff, I don't think I ever went into any kind of game in any sport where I wasn't nervous.
Well,
it just goes with the territory.
Okay, so let's talk about some of the other great athletes we've had a chance to see play. There were certain guys who, in the clutch or in big moments, they never seemed to cower in fear. They just embraced it. Larry Bird, for instance, you shared the story. You're at Boston Garden, the old Boston Garden. Trailblazers, Celtics. Portland takes a late lead, couple of seconds on the clock. Larry Bird takes the chalkboard out of his coach's hands and throws it on the ground, says, if you want to win, just give me the effing ball. I don't think he was nervous.
Not during the game. I think most of those guys will tell you they get nervous before, but once the game starts, it goes away. Yeah. I think that's always the way it is for most competitors. They used to say Bill Russell, a great competitor and a great winner, probably the greatest winner of all time. He used to upchuck before every game. Every game.
Yeah.
And he'd go in the other room, and they'd be in the locker room, and they'd hear it. And guys would just look at each other and smile and say, well, we're going to be okay tonight.
Do you think Kobe and MJ got nervous before games?
I do. I do think that. Yeah, I do. I think that.
I agree. I think every single pro athlete gets butterflies, nerves, some type of nervous energy, whatever you want to call it. I think they all get it before games. I don't know how you could do it and not feel something.
Yeah.
To compete at that level with that type of competition on that type of stage, there better be something going on inside of you or you're messed up.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that sort of that gets you going. Those nerves can light the fire in you, I think, and give you just a little bit extra energy.
I have nerves when I walk up to the tee box for hole one.
Sure. First tee. Oh, man. Absolutely, Chad.
I get nervous before my first shot every round, even if I've been out on the practice range, even if I'm striping the ball well. There's still an unknown before you hit that first tee shot.
Yeah.
And then once I hit the shot, my nerves settle, and then I'm fine.
Yeah, I think it's that way for everybody.
I think Caleb is overstating it. I love hearing this from my quarterback.
Mm.
Are you nervous? No, I'm good here. I don't get nervous. I want to hear that from my quarterback. You don't want a guy that steps into the huddle. Who was the guy? He played at Oregon. Lo Neal called him the Dark Knight.
Who is that?
That was Achilles Smith.
Oh.
Yeah. Not a good NFL quarterback. But Lo Neal, when he played for Cincinnati, he said that when Achilles Smith stepped into the huddle, he and every one of his teammates knew they were in some deep doo-doo.
Really?
Yeah.
He was scared?
Yeah, that you knew that he wasn't ready for the moment.
Oh. Man, was he good in college.
He was great.
Wow.
And Achilles is a good dude. But, like a lot of quarterbacks, you get to the NFL, it's like, oh, this is a little bit harder.
Yeah.
Well, if your teammates see the nerves and they know that you're not comfortable and that you're uncertain, well, that's not a good sign.
No, not at all.
Just like the Broncos. If Bo Nix steps into the huddle when he's walking on the field in Seattle and he's like, oh, crap, it's loud here. His teammates are going to be like, oh, we're dead.
Yeah.
I love that, though. Lowe said, he goes, we knew we were done.
Yeah.
We knew we were done.
Yeah, I could just see Bo Nix steps into the huddle. It's like, gosh, guys, it's really loud in here. I don't know about this.
Yeah, I'm not
How
sure.
would that fly?
I don't know if I'm ready. Oh, great, we're dead.
Yeah.
That's the sign that you're about to get your ass whooped.
Why
right
did
there.
I want to win this job?
But you got to love the confidence of Caleb Williams.
Where your nervous level, nervous energy gets to like scale of 1 to 10?
0. I don't get nervous. Not since my first game of high school versus Gilman. I fumbled 2 snaps. Other than that, and I came back and threw like out and up down the sideline. Other than that, play ball.
Just play ball.
I think it's possible to be that way. I can tell you, unlike anybody else I know, like if I'm going to give a speech in front of a large crowd, I'm never nervous, but I always have that adrenaline rush going through because I've convinced myself over time I'm really good at this. And I can't wait to do it because I know I'm going to be good at it. Now, am I always good at it? No. And I probably think I'm better than I actually am, but that's the only attitude I could think of that would help me get through that because I used to have the same fear of public speaking that everyone else in the world seems to have.
I'm glad you brought that up. That would be the one thing that gets my juices going more than anything else.
Really? Public speaking?
Yeah, I do it on purpose because it's good for me to do it with
Absolutely.
my job.
That's the way I started too, Chad. I made myself do it.
So anytime I'm asked to speak at whatever engagement, I do it because I like to do things. If my first reaction in my mind is, I don't want to do that, that means I need to go do that.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have learned that by facing your fear, it helps you overcome and it can lead to greater things. Speaking in front of a large body of people is nerve-wracking, but the more I do it, once I get going, I've gotten good at it over time. But my armpits, my body, like it is nerve-wracking. I can understand why people don't like it, but it's good for me to do because radio is not the same as speaking in front of a body of people. And so I like the challenge of getting up in front of people, delivering what I need to confidently, and then having the ability to look out into the eyes of some of the people in the crowd and realize that, and I always remind myself of this, that like when I go to some event and you got a speaker, I'm not paying attention to most of what they say.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't. Human beings have got too much going on in their domes to pay attention to every word.
How about, we did television together too, Chad. Were you nervous before the TV stuff?
I would get butterflies, but once it started, it was fine. The only difference with TV compared to radio is looking in a camera. But once I got that down in terms of where to look, I got comfortable with that. And the only thing I don't like about TV is that it's shorter bursts, so you don't have as much time to expand on ideas. It's
Right.
quicker hits because timing is different. Radio is more of a long form. And I normally, because you got a guy in your ear on TV.
That's the worst part of TV is the producer in your ear.
That's right. You've got to be able to look in the camera, deliver information while some knob is speaking in your ear.
Yelling at you.
Yeah.
But I always thought, I never got much nervous for television because it was a quiet studio, very seldom anybody else around.
Yeah.
You're looking into a camera, and you never think about, well, there might be 1 million people out here watching.
No.
You just don't think about it. You're just talking to a stupid camera, you know? And so I never got nervous about that. But it did bother me when I'm trying to get through a rather complicated setup for a video piece or something, and I got a guy in my ear saying, no, I think what we're going to do is we're going to change it, and we go, why don't you say this? And why, it's like, shut up.
I know. I think probably the most nervous I've got speaking to a larger body of people was when I lived down in Emeryville, when I was down in the Bay Area. I got down there like a couple of weeks after I got there. I wanted to get involved in the community and find a way to give back. And so I called my dad. I was like, Dad, how do you get involved? Like, I want to do something to help people. He goes, find the nearest church, go in and say that you would like to donate your time. And he goes, I guarantee you'll find work of some sort instantly. So I did. I found a church close by that was recommended to me by someone I knew up here. I walked in, and after the service, I asked someone there, like, hey, do you guys have anything I can volunteer with, or you guys do anything in the community? And the guy's like, yeah, as a matter of fact, across the street, we have this building with a gymnasium and a large kitchen, and we do we provide for the street people in Oakland because there's a lot of them, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the next week, I was in the kitchen with a couple of guys making a large quantity of food, and then we'd hand out hygiene packets, and all these people who lived on the streets would come in. And then as time went on, I eventually ended up taking over that whole responsibility. So I would go out shopping every week, buy the food, and I was getting recipes from my mom on how to make different types of food, but on a larger scale because I'd never done that before. And so I was making the food and then handing out hygiene packets.
Wow.
And I was doing a lot of work by myself. But the one thing that we had to do because it was a church is that before the food was served, I had to give a little message, like from the Bible to these people from the street. And I remember the first night, like trying to figure out what I was going to say because I'm like, I'm not a pastor. I'm not qualified for this. And I don't want to take something from the word, which is holy, and speak something poorly. And I had never been more nervous in my life. So I took a couple of notes. I tried to keep it simple. And I cared about these people because I had seen them, week after week after week. And so I got up in front of them and spoke. And I could feel the sweat forming on my back as I was doing it. And I was nervous, and finally I got through it and I had to do it more after that, and I got better with it. But that type of public speaking where you've got eyeballs on you and you're up in front of people, there's nothing gets me a charge quite like that. It's not the same. It's different than radio. It's different than TV because you got human beings, that interaction. They're right there on you.
Instant feedback.
Yes.
You'll know whether you were good or bad.
Similar to what you've done when you did your stand-up.
Yeah.
I can't imagine the instant feedback from people looking at you and they either give you a reaction or they don't.
Yeah, the silence is deafening. Very loud silence.
It's like, dang, I just gave my best stuff and I didn't get one single laugh. I suck. And that's the hard part, too, you got to – I have noticed in my life that it's easy for negative thoughts to come in. I'm not always thinking, oh, this is going to go great. It's like, what if you screw up? What if you say the wrong thing? What if this happens? The negative thoughts, you got to, you have to filter that crap out. Sometimes the inner conversation, maybe it's just me, but it's not always the most positive that goes on, So I have to filter that stuff out sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. When I went to Comcast Sportsnet or NBC Sports Northwest, whatever you want to call it, I told them I like to public speak, so give me some gigs and I'll go out and introduce our network to the public because nobody really knew what we were, what we did, or any of that, and they never did. But when we started the Portland Tribune earlier, my job was to go out. I went to every Lions Club, Optimus, I don't know, name every service club you could name, and I was out there. I'd go to their breakfast or their lunch and stand up and talk to people. And I did it enough that I had a few jokes, and I made fun of myself, and we always had a good time. And it got to the point where I love doing it. It's like, yeah, give me some more gigs. I like doing this. I met a lot of people in the community. I think I made friends for the newspaper. It all worked for us. And I was always very sad that more of us or any of us couldn't go out on behalf of that network for free and just tell people what we did and how it was.
I know.
And people come up to me at games. Oh, what are you doing now? You retired, huh? Because they never watched our network.
Yeah.
They either didn't get it or they didn't care.
You know, it's funny. When I watched like the RNC, the Republican National Convention, or even this week, the Democratic National Convention, these politicians kill me because they get up there on stage and they're reading off a prompter.
Yeah.
And they're reading a speech that has been written for them by somebody else.
Exactly.
It's so fake and so pathetic because the real challenge would be to get up there and to share your thoughts from your heart without reading a prepared speech.
Yeah.
That, to me, is a true test of a man or a woman. Can you get up in front of a large body of people and communicate what you're looking to accomplish without having a prepared speech that's on a prompter? And you know, if any of those people had the prompter freeze on them, they'd be fish out of water.
Yeah.
Done.
I know.
I've always respected people that can communicate without the prepared statement or the prepared speech and be able to communicate clear and concise. That to me is a true talent.
Wherever you are and you're listening to people giving speeches and memorial services, meetings, whatever, the people that drag out that sheaf of papers in their pocket, you can just see the whole room go, oh, no, here it comes. Nobody wants to hear that guy reading a speech. They want to hear you just talk to them. Yeah. And that's why even if you need to use something, make it seem like you're not, Just write down some ideas, check that thing once in a while, but make sure people don't think you're reading it.
Yeah, same thing in radio. One of the true talents is being able to take something that maybe you've written a monologue or something you want to communicate, being able to speak it, but not make it sound like you're reading it. That's critical.
Mm-hmm.
Not everyone can do that.
Mm-hmm.
All right, when we come back, I've got to share the story about Foreigner. It's a great music story.
Good idea.
You got the Rip City Drive with Dwight and Chad. Oh, by the way, Phil Steele, the college football messiah, is going to join us at 5:20.
Yes!
If I can face it again, I can't stop now. This is a great song. One of my favorite songs of all time, and the biggest hit from Foreigner. I've seen him in concert multiple times, and I've had a chance to interview Lou Gramm, big fan of his, a terrific lead vocalist for Foreigner. So I got stuck in a YouTube rabbit hole.
As is your habit.
Yes. And this was an eclectic group of videos because I went sports, I went Bo Nix, and then all of a sudden I was watching music videos and hearing from Lou Gramm. And I interviewed him when I talked to him, probably about 10 years ago, 9 or 10 years ago. I mean, it was a long form interview. So I spoke to him for probably about an hour, and he was awesome. And he was super cool. And he shared a lot of different stories with me through his struggles with addiction, coming to faith, writing songs, what it was like watching Foreigner perform with a different lead singer. I mean, the whole shebang. But I did not uncover this story that I saw last night, which was interesting. So that song that was just played, I Want to Know What Love Is, I think that came off the Agent Provocateur album. And, they had already had a series of hits. 404 is one of the best albums ever. Well, the primary players in the group were Lou Gramm and Mick Jones. And they were the primary songwriters, and they would work together, come up with song ideas, and then they would put an album together. And so they were working, according to Lou, on this album, Agent Provocateur, and, Mick had hit him up about, he had this idea for a song. And so Lou went over to his house, and they started working on I Want to Know What Love Is. And Lou said it took a long time. Like, it was a process where they would get together over the course of about 6 to 8 weeks, work on the song, go home, think about it, come back, work on the song.
Wow.
And they were working on all the different parts of it, lyrics, the music, the chorus. And they had met another guy within the music industry who liked the idea of the song and what they were working on. I said, I think what you're missing here is you need a choir. And I think I've got the right choir for you. And that's when they added the choir to the chorus, singing, with Lou Gramm. And it sounds amazing, right? Well, what Lou said that he and Mick would always do is that when they were done with an album, they would take a little piece of paper for each song, and they would each write down the percentages for each song on what they thought the split was between songwriting responsibilities. So Lou would take a song, and he would write 60-40 me, 40% for Mick. And they would go through and do this. And the process, he said, always worked, because they knew the work that was put in. And
they agreed on it most of the time.
Most of the time, it was they were in 100% agreement. The reason why that's important, especially back in the day for the songwriting credits, is that, if you're more responsible for writing the song, you're going to make more profits off of the music itself.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they had put in the work on I Want to Know What Love Is, and they had completed the recording of the song, and everyone that had heard the song and had been a part of the process knew that it was going to be a smash hit.
Sure, you just heard that. You knew, right?
You knew right away. It's one of those few songs where you're like, okay, that's a hit.
Yeah.
Well, Lou said that when it came time to put down the percentages for the songs, for I Want to Know What Love Is, he put 60% Mick, 40% Lou. So he knew that Mick had done the majority, but it was closer to 50-50 than there was anything else. And he said he got his slip from Mick on that song, and it was 95-5. 95% me, 5% you.
Oh, wow.
And Lou was instantly, he felt betrayed. And he knew why Mick was doing that and why he was trying to play that game, because he knew he was going to make millions off the song.
Uh-huh.
And the song went on to sell, many records. I think it was 2 times platinum or something like that. A ridiculous song. It was a smash hit.
Right.
And Lou didn't fight him on it. He felt devastated that he's like, I went over there every night for like 8 weeks. Wow. And I contributed to major components of the song. And he goes, on top of that, I sang my ass off. My vocals were top notch. So that created the riff, which eventually led to the separation in the band, where Lou went off to do his own thing. So after that song hit, and Mick made a ton of money. He went on a yacht and kind of sailed around for, multiple weeks, kind of around the world type of a deal. And during that time that he was off sailing, Lou Gramm went in and decided to put together his own solo album. So he put together a solo album and had a couple of big hits off the album. And when Mick got back into town, he realized that Lou had put together a solo album and was off touring. And Mick called him, and he was upset about Lou doing his own solo album. And he's like, well, we're ready to work on our next album for Foreigner, so you need to get back in the studio. He was like, when I'm done with my tour, I'll be happy to come back and contribute to the album. That's not a problem. And he finished out his touring for his album and then came back, and he said after that the tension in terms of the songwriting for their next album, it was pretty evident, right? Where Lou would offer up ideas, but Mick would reject some of them, and that's where the tension began. All because of that one song where instead of looking at it 50-50 and just kind of sharing in the proceeds, he made the cash grab on that song, and that created the riff.
See, if he would have called me and said, got to come back, and we got to start on the next album for Foreigner, I would have said, hey, all you got to do is find 5%. Go get your 5% from somebody else.
Yeah, exactly.
If that's all I'm doing, 5%, you can find that any place.
But I can see the frustration there because if you pour out your heart and soul into a song, and everyone knows the song's going to be a hit, and then your partner who you've been with for years comes back with this 95.5 garbage, right away you're going to be like, what the heck's going on here?
Yeah.
But I think he was so offended that he didn't fight him or try to take him to court or anything like that. It's just like, whatever, man.
Yeah.
Go off and enjoy your song. Screw you. Isn't that crazy? That one moment, you use that to wash away years and years of goodwill.
Well, yeah, you can see how it caused basically a divorce among the two parties.
Yeah. Now, they've been able to mend some of those fences, but that damage was done, and it prevented those two from working together and creating many more great songs.
That's the tragedy in all these groups, to see them break up and know all the good music that we're missing because they didn't stay together.
Yeah. Just like John Lennon getting involved with Yoko, and then she broke up the band. And
Yeah. That's what I was thinking about. Yeah.
Paul and John had many more years of songwriting that they could have been working together, but the egos always get involved somehow, whether it's sports or big music, and I hate that.
Jealousy, greed.
All the usual human factors that create disruption.
Yes.
All right, when we come back, we'll celebrate Bo Nix being named the starter in Denver.